Hello, all you hardcores out there. How you doing? It's Russ here from Porky's Corner, the biggest gob in the sport. Today I'm joined by Julian. How you doing, Julian?
I'm all right, Russell. I'm a bit of a technophobe at times, and I've tried to change my title from Pompous Julian of Money. As you know, I did it for a bit of a joke, and people actually think I'm from Money, which is, well,
Same
yeah.
as me, aren't you? Dad was a coal miner in the 70s and 80s, 60s, 70s and 80s, wasn't it? The 60s and
Yeah.
going back years.
My mum worked out on the market. My dad was a coal miner. My brother was a coal miner. My mum worked in a care home. My sister worked in a care home. Pretty working class, mate. But yeah, it's quite funny. I tried to change it, and I'll figure it out at some point.
Yeah. How you been?
I've been all right. It's got my lads with me this week. I used to say I've got my kids with me, but my daughters are both at uni now, so it's a bit of an all-male environment right now. But yeah, been all right. Been to the gym tonight. Had a half a session, not a full session. Just busy. I tried to do a little bit of homework. You set me some homework, and you said, if you get a chance, watch the IFL interview. And I got 10 minutes in, I can't do it.
I watched 16 minutes of it, and it's just same old repeat. And do you know what? I've dug up about 37 interviews that they've done, and I think it's like a circle. It's like a merry-go-round, and it stops, and then they try that different scenario again, and it's the same one. I think we must be crazy following this, and it's like
Groundhog Day.
Now, if you back up to July, Cameron just pieced something in. You know, the one where I've got the blue leather jacket on. I'm not sure if it's part one yesterday, I think, and it's a clip from. If you Google, "These are grown men," Porky's Corner. It's July's episode at Elmer's, and I think Tyson won it. He was number one, won it, and I said, "Public are not going to buy into this because it's not a real fight." But they changed it down the line to a real fight, didn't they? But no belt online. But with a no belt online, it sort of took shine off it, didn't it, kind of thing? And the public voted with their feet. Worldwide pay-per-views under 500,000. So it collapsed, didn't it, basically? They lost money. Right.
Shocking, and the Saudis like making money, so they're only going to put so much money into this before they realise actually that boxing's a bit of a dud. And unfortunately, that's going to happen. Or fortunately, depending on if you want to see big fights happen over here or not, I don't know. But yeah, it's just a merry-go-round, and it's just a dance that we're led. Okay. And as fights go, I mean, we've covered Fury and Garno, but as fights go, it was terrible, wasn't it? It was a terrible fight. And Tyson can't live off that fight with Deontay Wilder forever. That great fight he had. And the Klitschko fight was an absolute bore fest. The Chisora and Dillian White fight, there wasn't a competitive round in any of those fights. And then we had that dross that we saw recently. It's not the most exciting reign, really, is it? He's in danger of becoming Klitschko Mark II with these dud performances. At least, like I say, we'll forgive him for we'll give him the Wilder fight, but you can't live off that forever, buddy.
When do you think the rot set in with Tyson? Do you think it was after the second Wilder?
I think, you know me, you've always...
Oh, sorry, the third one, the second.
I've never changed my tune. Right? Lifestyle, diet, inactivity kills anybody. There's been better fighters than Tyson Fury who have hit the slide in their early 30s. Much better fighters. And I think
Whittaker did, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And I've always said the same thing. When you're a fighter who relies on reflexes and timing and anticipation, and of course he's got massive physical advantages as well, the guy's a giant, then that's the first thing to go. So you better have a really stable kind of set of basics behind all that flash stuff. And if you look, because he was pretty flash, was Tyson. You see the pivots, you see the switching, pulling away from shots.
Very good, yeah.
Pulling away from shots just by an inch. inch and a
2 inch
half.
and in, yeah, really good timing.
And
back
he's
then, yeah.
and he's really not pulling away from those shots now, is he? And some of the shots we've seen him get hit with, you can write a letter, you can see these shots coming. So I think the inactivities hurt him. I think he really peaked when he beat Wilder in the second fight. I thought a masterful performance. Wilder was woeful. And then the third fight, as we've said, they just knocked lumps out of each other. And I think they probably left a little bit of each.
You think the
themselves.
third fight were kind of like an Ali Fraser?
I do. I think it's a
Couldn't get
fair
out of way either of them, could they?
Yeah, and as I've said, and I continually repeat the same thing. People will say, yeah, but look at the Dillian White fight, and Dillian White never got close to him. These are guys in the mid-30s. Yeah. So when this has always been the golden rule, the back end of a boxer's career. If you're Ray Leonard started to mix with the guys at the back end of the career who are knocking on a little bit, didn't he? The Durans, the Hearnses, the Aglers. When Ray Leonard went in with a young Terry Norris, he got his arse handed to him. So what Tyson Fury is doing is he's fighting guys who's in the mid-30s, and that's been consistent now. You know,
Ngannou nearly 38, isn't he?
Ngannou nearly 38, 2 years inactive. I don't even know what Derek Chisora was. He's near 40 than he's 35. Wilder was the same. These young fighters out there that you won't really know how much he's aged until he's in with a kid who's 27, 28, 29. And what you're going to see is, you know, all we hear about is Zhang. What's Zhang? 39, 40?
41, isn't he now?
We keep hearing about these old guys and no one's mentioning the young kids.
You mentioned Joe Joyce today in boxing, a serious person. I went, what?
Oh, wow. Okay. So do you see what I'm saying? So Tyson's going backwards, but we won't truly know how far he's gone backwards until he's in with a real.
You mean like when Groves fought Froch and Froch were coming to end and he had Groves there hunting him down, that kind of thing.
Young kids, first of all, they've got the reflexes. They're fearless when they're younger. They're completely fearless. They don't have 50 million, 100 million in the bank to sort of make them think, do you know what, this is a bit too hard for me now. And it's always the case in history, isn't it? We had Joe Louis getting knocked out by young Rocky Marciano, and this is history, and this is what happens in history. And I think they're very smart to keep Tyson away from the younger kids, and to keep Tyson, I guess, fighting the guys he's fighting. And Usyk, I don't think Usyk's at his best anymore. It's physically impossible to be 36-year-old and be in your prime. Physically impossible.
You know, I had a Kinder Surprise piece of chocolate earlier. It's gone, and there's 3 of us in the house and 2 dogs and me.
Which one's favourite then?
Here with Cone on Roxy, I've gone out.
So you know, I don't
know the sheepish. Bricktop. He's doing interview after interview after interview. Something he's never done. He's out in his comfort zone, but obviously he's basking in the glory and he's preening like a peacock, like Graham Souness in his pomp at Liverpool, preening with that ball on centre circle. But he's come out. They've dealt with him on TalkSport, this and that today. I ain't buying it for this Feb. I weren't buying it in July when I said Ngannou ain't going to do well. And when the Usyk were fat, Spencer Brown were the one, and it said, look, these bedroom bloggers need to shut their mouths. It's happening December 23rd. Right. Well, we said Tyson Fury, when we get to February, that's 100 months since Vladimir's had 10 fights. How many of them 10 would you say were really competitive? You say there were 3, wouldn't you? So he's had 7 uncompetitive fights out of the 10. Do we now see a pattern? Yes, in July I pointed this out. We're called a troll. Trolls are people who hide behind keyboards, right? Do I look like I'm behind the keyboard? No. So he's had 3 competitive fights with Wilder. He knew what to expect after the first one. He did him in the second, so the third with a cherry on top won it. So really, in his head, he's only gone really into 2 competitive fights in his mindset. But it's 3 on the record books, out the 10. Out of the other 7, who would you rate? Would Joshua beat all them 10?
He's beat most of them.
Would Usyk beat all them 10?
Yeah.
Right, well, there you go. So they're not really that competitive then, are they really? Because if they're saying Fury's miles and miles ahead of Usyk and Joshua. So we've been sold a dud. Terry Chappendama gave me an idea for a title. He just said, yeah, pump and dump. Well, it gave me an idea. I think that's a good title, that. That's what they've done to us, isn't it? 10 fights in the comeback, 7 gifts, 3 competitives, right? Well done. Millions in bank. Now it's the time to cash out, innit? They want them 2 Usyk fights, don't they? Maybe in Ngannou. So he's maybe got probably 150 million to bank on top of that. So he could end up getting out of the job with 300 million. That's brilliant. That is great. Everybody's happy. But don't rub everybody's nose in it in this country, because this country, sports fans, not just boxing, sports fans at UK are very fickle, aren't they? He can turn on a sixpence how he can be. 1 minute, hardest man in area and popular. The next minute, you're just a shithouse, aren't you? And nobody wants to watch you. Is he heading towards that kind of carry on? Whereas Joshua's kept his counsel, kept quiet. They're just going about the business, aren't they, and letting him hang himself. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think he will hang himself, because I think his true character will come out, and that's not a character assassination, by the way. That's just saying it as it is. He can be quite uncouth. He's funny. He's insightful at times, but he's purely all about the money. He tells you 1 minute is about the money, and then he says about the legacy. But he's about the money, and there's no that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. But he's not what you think he is, and most people aren't. They're just human beings that people put shining beacons on boxers for whatever reason. It's like Anthony Joshua. You know, Eddie Hearn said in the 10 or 11 minutes I did see an interview of him, he was saying AJ is now doing stuff for himself. And I'm like, well, they're only doing things for themselves now because they've figured out how to do that. But none of them are about the legacy. None of them are about doing things for the people. They don't do things for charity because they want to do. If they ever do any charitable things, they just do it because there's a camera there.
Tell you about it.
Yeah, and they want to tell you about it. People do things for charity, generally do things.
I know a millionaire. He went down to picket lines in 80s, come up with Chesterfield, multi-millionaire.
Well, Chris Evans always really tried to hush.
Chris Evans went berserk with a guy in Daily Mirror years ago because he gave 1.5 million to somebody. He went berserk. But a lot of them do get it off the tax, don't they? But they don't. If they're getting it off the tax, they don't want anybody to know, do they? But it's their business if they're doing it for charity, isn't it? Why say it and then say it's none of your business when you get pulled up about it like Fury did?
But what Tyson should have done is, I don't know if it came from his mouth or not, Tyson giving his Wilder purse to charity. If it came from his mouth, then we'd have probably, if it comes from your mouth, then what you're saying is, I want everyone to know about it. So there'd have been some kind of recognition from a charity. We have gratitude towards you. What you've done is amazing. Then they've really made a big thing out of it. And if you didn't give it to charity, then you should have said, I never said that, you know, but I'm more than happy to give something for charity. But people don't give a whole fight purses to charity, especially when they're only just climbing back up that hill. It just doesn't make sense. So it's just stuff like that I don't like. I mean, I know I'm not criticising people, but Coogan and Eddie have had a bit of a bet, haven't they? And that's the 10 minutes I got on that interview was Eddie's lost a bet. And he was talking about it was going to give £500 to whoever. 500 quid.
500 quid.
Yeah. It's like you.
I've lost more than that in bets myself on a game of pool.
I mean, people said, who do you think you are? I was just like, why do you have to? The thing is, what got me is the fact that they're talking about this on an interview. They've had this public bet, 500 quid. I'll write it out to you now. I'll do this, I'll do that. And they're like high-fiving each other over 500 quid, 2 millionaires. And it's just horrendous. It's like when they're giving these, when Matchroom, it's great that these amateur gyms, every time there's a fight in the area, Liverpool or wherever, that they go to the local amateur gym and they do this thing on Matchroom on their channel, and they give them gloves and they give them bits and bobs. That's just the best form of press that you can get. It's the best form of promotion that you can get. Just do it in stealth. Look at Manny Pacquiao. He does so many things he's given
8
more than
million he gave to that thing that they built all huts for them all, didn't they? Or whatever they lived in over there. And 8 million it cost him, didn't it?
unbelievable what that guy does for charity, Manny
Built a
Pacquiao.
town, didn't he, in Philippines?
They reckon Roberto Duran was exactly the same, and it only
Yeah.
gets out because people tell them, but they generally do it in quiet.
Look what Ali gave away. He gave away the
Oh, yeah.
Sphinx purse, didn't he? The
And,
second Sphinx
and
purse.
they're talking about 500 quid. Oh, I'll do it 500.
And Ali 8.5 million in one night.
500 quid. Match.
Go
What's
on,
match?
Eddie. Go on, Eddie.
Well done, Eddie. You give 500 quid away. I mean, and you've let everybody know about it. Everyone knows about
Good
it. Well
old
done.
Eddie Mr. Integrity himself.
And he'll say, well, I can't win, can I? Well, you can win. You just do it and don't tell anybody you've done it.
I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. The disappearing man knocked it back a bit because it wasn't for him because he wanted to disappear. Well, it's a needs must, isn't it? Did I call it in May? Yes, that's another thing. Cameron, dig that one out as well while you're at it. While we're not doing helmets this month, you can do something else. That's about that one, eh? I said Bellew will do that. Carl Froch knocked it back though. Pop, bang on that one, eh?
Listen.
Now, can I just say to everybody, when I'm a Celebrity starts, I want everybody to ring in because we love our Tone. He is the man. Ring in. I want to see Tony Bellew on every challenge. Is it Bush Tucker challenge, as they call him, Jules? I want to see Tony Bellew eating camel's balls in there. Like that Jenny, who is it? That royal correspondent, Jenny Bond. She didn't mess about, did she? With camel's balls. Swallowed
I don't really watch it. It won't surprise you to know I don't really watch it, but I'd rather see Tony Bellew eat an elephant's dick than fight for the Bridgerweight title.
Tony Bellew's been chomping on dick for years anyway, so that's all right. Though. Let's see him get some rhinos toenails on toast or something. I don't know, but I'm sure he'll have fun. But I want to see Tony Bellew go. But you know what would be a good thing? This would be a good thing. And I'm a celebrity. We are all in a dark room. All these that are going to go for 4 days and want to copy Joshua, like Johnny splinters in his arse. Fisher, you know, he will sit on fence. Oh, I can't say no about Tyson, but Joshua, it's my pal. He sounds like Ross Birkinshaw. Look, pal. She left me for a rasta. He sounds like Ross Birkinshaw, doesn't he? Mr. Indecisive, Johnny Bosch Fisher. I want to get behind him, but he does an interview and then I can't get behind him, Julian. He's undefeated, 10-0, 9-0, age 24, Elmer Fudd, big stiff. But he's doing it the right way that I like. Area belt. Next up, English. Go through levels, kid, and make me a fan. Don't be coming out with your nonsense in every interview that you do about who's your pal. They're not your pals. You'll see down the line that they're not your pals, that everybody thinks they're the pals at the beginning. Look at Sam Jones. Somebody sent me something in earlier. Porky, why don't you do something about how Sam Jones's career's gone and how Joe Gallagher's career's gone and how not to do it? So give me your take on that, Jules.
Sam Jones, as you know, I don't really care much for this modern boxing man who's come through from flogging cars or selling timeshares or whatever. I don't know where he's come from. I struggle with how these people get in boxing. That's what I struggle with. And they want to be everybody's friend and they want to be controversial and they get the clickbait headlines and Sam Jones says this, Sam Jones says that. So I jumped onto something tonight just because it popped up about Benn and Eubank. And you know my thoughts on Benn and Eubank. And he's saying, just get the effing fight done. And the one thing I can say about listening to Sam Jones in 10 minutes of Sam Jones talking is you don't learn a thing. I want two things. I said this to Max before, right? If I watch something, and I'm not always discerning, I can watch trash with the rest of them, right? I want it to either be entertaining or informative. Now, Sam Jones is neither entertaining or informative. He don't tell you anything that you'll ever learn. I don't find him funny, but I don't know how these people get in boxing. I don't know how they're
Me
getting
money, a car
boxing,
salesman.
but they don't know anything about boxing. They couldn't break anything down. They don't know anything about boxing. So I struggle with it. I struggle with anybody as well, as you know, who really is pushing for Ben and Eubank until this is cleared up. I just struggle with anybody. I think you're immoral. And what we know about boxing, and this is what we know about people and humanity, people will do anything for money. Now, they're just always playing the tune that the Pied Piper wants them to dance to. And that's what Sam Jones is doing. I think he did a really awful job with Joe Joyce. Didn't push for his mandatory. We've covered this one now, but I just find him a little bit nauseous, if I'm being honest.
You mean like
cheesy as fuck, just nauseous, just
like for instance, when you see something with your eyes, you see like how a fight goes. When these people are asked, I'm not going to say that we won't say the names, but I sent you something earlier. Then I said, I can't believe what he just said, because you know what I mean, kind of thing. Because they know boxing probably better than us.
Yeah.
But they still go out and they say the opposite of what they feel because they don't want to upset anybody. And that's where I have a problem with Coogan now, because if you study Coogan, he's mainly behind camera, but even when he's in front of it, he's still very, very good. He knows where to look, what to do, because he's been doing it that long. Yeah. And I think he's wasted doing this, and he should be doing something else similar, but sitting in front of the camera. I think he's very good in front of the camera. But he don't want to lose his gig, so he's not going to put a bit of pressure on these people. But can't they see where it's heading? Nah, boxing. So these people should be saying, look, what about this? What about that? But they're not. They're scared, mate. And it's so frustrating to see, because they've got access to say, Frank, what about these pay-per-views? Frank's had to fight back. Oh, 6 done for Feb. December, Jan, Feb. It's done. What is it? 3 months away, they're saying now. It's done. Where's the date then? Oh, we're going to announce it in 4 weeks. So you're announcing date in 4 weeks, and then 8 weeks later you're going to fight. Yeah, well, that's brilliant. But hadn't we just all had that before? And then didn't we have it a bit back with Joshua and somebody else, and then Fury were going to fight somebody else. I forget the man's name. Who else were they going to fight and he didn't fight?
Everybody. They listed about 15 people for Fury at one point, didn't they?
It was Wallen were close rematch, wasn't it? And all that. And we were, and they were coming out saying it was a done deal and that. It's rubbish, but they've got to get, listen, the fan, they need the fans, right? You know, the boxing fans that you're all watching. These interviews, what everybody's forgetting, it's not to make themselves good. It's designed to get your pay-per-view money and to invest your time and effort in that fighter. So they'll say anything. They'll go to bed with an anaconda, a big snake that long. They'll do anything.
Do anything for
as long
money.
as you buy into it. So they've lost momentum with Fury now. The fans have turned. They're wheeling out big Shane Fury to smooth everything. And he's probably half all right at a job, because he talks half a bit of sense, doesn't he, really?
He does.
But the rest of them don't. So they're going to wheel him out, but he's not a PR guy. He can only speak in layman terms, limited. Frank's the man for doing that. So he's had to come out and say it's all done. Frank, you know yourself that these dates, they keep getting put further back and back and back and back. If Fury were going to fight Usyk, he'd have fought him by now. If he were going to fight Joshua, he'd have fought him by now. There's something in here that says to him, I don't want to fight them because they're probably going to be my hardest fights. And look at the people he struggled with. So every now and then, he might pull a rabbit out of that. But how many fights in his last 15? No, his last 10 since his comeback. Before that, when did he ever look great? When did he ever look great? Against Vladimir. He got job done, but he wasn't engaging. Wasn't he, like, picked his pocket? He robbed him, didn't he, in the street, Vladimir?
I think the Vladimir win was both men, by the way, before somebody shoots me down. I think it was the lowest punch stats.
Ever recorded that Vladimir had been hit by and still lost.
Ever for a heavyweight title.
They were all herky-jerky fainting. Oh, I saw a load of fainting, and I saw Vladimir. He bought into it for 9 rounds, didn't he? After 9, if you were like that, he threw caution to win, and he come on strong, didn't he?
Yeah.
He came on strong at end. And I think there was something in them last few rounds that he didn't want to take that rematch. But then again, I've heard of people say, well, he didn't want to take it because they weren't guaranteed to get the 6.7 mil because it went from Sky to Box Nation and it were all up in air, wasn't it? The deal they signed, it were all a bit, it didn't look that good for him, did it? They could have fought and not got out, couldn't they? But yeah,
Look, I've always been consistent. I think he's the best of his generation. I think he's a very poor generation. Very poor generation.
Well, of course, it's going to be poor when they're getting Joshua belts after 16 fights.
The last great heavyweight champion was Lennox Lewis.
And it's Lewis 20 odd years ago.
And I don't think there's been some people might argue Vlad, but I don't think so. But the last, and I said previously, we won't get another great heavyweight champion ever again because there's too many belts. There's not enough demand for unifications. There's too much inactivity and there's way too much money. So the days of a champion wanting to prove his dominance are long, long, long gone at heavyweight. Long gone.
Yeah. Somebody asked me what's the beef, Porky? Tony Bellew. I said I ain't got no beef with Tony Bellew, but he did ring Dennis up complaining about me on Twitter years ago. I think I spoke about this to you. So he didn't like the fact that I said that he not beat a champion. It upset his son. Fair enough. I took the video down. Dennis asked me to. I was seething over it, really fucking seething. But my genuine beef with Tony Bellew is this: he goes on about what's right and what's wrong in boxing, and when he gets on his soapbox, it's brilliant because he's got the platform to do that, hasn't he? But Tony, let's have it right. We know what you earned when you went with Dave Caldwell. You paid him up. You were paying him 25 grand. That ain't 10%, but fair enough, he won't be from beginning. But don't talk about what's right and what's wrong in boxing when Carl Froch and other people paid people 10% from day one. Now, I know you never took a penny off Gary, did you? But he didn't earn that much, did he?
Well, I took it to pay him back, to give him the money back. But yeah, there were times I took it,
10% from day one, from first fight to Groves. 10% all the way through. And he never ripped Kessler or Groves off when they could have had less, because Groves could have had a lot less money. And so 2 seconds, let me just sort this little rug rat out. Come here, you.
You're all right, mate. And I don't know if you can still hear me or not, but Marvin Hagler gave 10%. Marvin Hagler gave 10% to the Petronellis as well.
All the way through, didn't he?
When Hagler was getting 10 million for fighting Tommy Hearns. When Hagler were getting 10 million and 8 million for those big fights, 10% he gave to the Petronellis.
Yeah, he did. But point I want to make is Tony goes on about what's right and what's wrong. And you know what? After that, I thought, you know what? You're not for me. And best thing about it is when old Will Mackenzie put him on Button Moon, I jumped out my seat and I thought, wow. And he come back and won. Our team, Tony Bellew. But once I heard that about payments and this and that, and then you see him holding court on these platforms about what's right. Well, listen, isn't it ironic that Dave Caldwell won't be coming to, he'll never go and invite to a Big P Park barbecue at Easter at my house, but point I want to make is I don't agree with that. I didn't agree with that. And with my little circle at the time, I told them all, and every single person said that's not right. You can walk away with millions and give somebody 25 bags a fight. That ain't right, mate. If you train Gary Sykes,
I didn't know that. I didn't.
Millions, right? Pay-per-view. How many pay-per-views did he have? Bellew cleverly on Sky. Usyk once. David A twice. Well, that Everton won pay-per-view when he won it.
No, I don't think that.
I don't think that was that macabre. But the Mother 4-1, I think he had a pay-per-view with cleverly on Box Nation, didn't he, as well?
He's had some good coiners, Tony Bellew.
Well, I don't know if he was Bellew, I'm not sure. But point I want to make is, sorry, Caldwell then. Caldwell probably got him in mix by going with Caldwell. That probably got him in mix and then him mugging him off with that. So no, I have a problem with that. Do you know what I mean? But I won't be losing any sleep over it. Do you know what I mean? But so that's that answer to somebody who kept grabbing a little pop.
Yeah, I didn't know that, by the way. I wasn't aware of that.
What about people having a pop at me when I wake up?
No, 25.
You didn't to meet them.
I wasn't aware he got 25k for those big fights.
Yeah, Eubank. Ben. Still not announced. We are now 16 months since the first test, aren't we? July last year. and he's fought, and he obviously recently. What are they going to do? I mean, they're saying that the board are going to strip all of them on undercard, aren't they? And Eubank as well, the licenses, according to Bricktop. But I'm not so sure, you know. I'm not so sure.
What we've got is just look. I haven't spoke about the Ben Eubank for a while. Couple of reasons. One, my views are very, very well known on Porky's Corner. Two, I've kind of switched off in the main from this one. And I did hear Frank Warren say something, because I always have half an hour before we have a chat. I'll try and catch up on a few bits and bobs and a few sound bites. And Frank Warren said, you know what? I'm just not interested. I'm sick of hearing it. So that's kind of where I'm at with the Ben and Eubank fight. Conor Benn, I own it. He just grates me. When I see him with his shades on and his whatever, I just want to just put my foot through the TV. The man, and I'll tell you what it is with Conor Benn, right? It's a million things. I own it. Yeah, he grates me. But it's the way he presents himself and parades himself like he's the 4-weight world champion and he's a Hall of Famer. Conor Benn hasn't beaten anybody who's at this time is relevant or anywhere remotely near their prime. And the way he conducts himself is like he's the biggest name in British boxing. And if that's where we're at now, if Conor Benn is this big maestro and this iconic figure in British boxing, then we must be desperate for stars. This is a guy who's 3 KOs in his last 6 fights and telling us he's like a prime
Julian Jackson.
Yeah. And he's, 3 guys in his last 6 have been able to stand up to his shots without any problems whatsoever. None of them ever looked like they were ever going anywhere. And he looks like the world's smallest welterweight. He's just like a little dweeb. And I'm sick of seeing highlights of him pop up on YouTube saying, Conor Benn smashes the pads. I'm like, God, is that the only combination you've got? That 1, 2, 3, that double roll, left up to the body, left up to the head, right hand.
That one every time, isn't it?
It does the same thing.
Eubank will see that coming, won't he?
He'll go 1, 2, 3, roll, hook, go back, stab the jab to the body, stab the jab to the body. I'm like,
that's what his dad used to do, though, isn't it?
That all you can do? Have you got no variety? Have you got no feints? Have you got no touches? Do you never start with like a backhand it's just like, you're so predictable. But it's just the way, like I say, if you look at boxing, right, you've got Canelo Alvarez, and he arrives, doesn't he, at these big events in his Bugatti, in his Versace's. He's as cool as hell because he's Canelo Alvarez. Yep. Yeah. Tyson lands in his Versace suits, and you think, yeah, heavyweight champion of the world, I'm going to give you a pass for that. You got Terence Crawford, you got all these cool guys who they conduct themselves because they've been there, they've done it, and they've proven themselves to be the man. He's the man. He's the man. You see Usyk at ringside when they're on the big shows. People love him. Cool as hell. And you think that's Alexander Usyk.
Hey, listen, he went and stuck his head straight into Fury's face on his side at ring, didn't he? He didn't budge,
hard as nails.
He didn't flinch, did he?
But you see what I'm saying? And we've got all these guys. And then we've got Conor Benn, who gets mobbed at ringside and is shoulder bumping Kell Brook, and he's going to smash everybody in one round.
Kell Brook, I'm not being funny, right? I know he's knocking on a bit now. Is he 38 or something? Let me tell you this: Kell Brook would smash him up inside 6 rounds. He would take him apart. He would dissect him now, even now. I
just don't get
it. Dissect him, mate.
I don't.
Put him on button moon.
We're so desperate for stars that Conor Benn's this like. He's like they've got this aura of the prime Mike Tyson, and I've said I don't get it. I saw his last fight, and I just saw him against some guy who had a padded record who was pretty poor, and he hit him full on all the way through the fight. And he never moved him, and then people start saying, "But this guy's George Chuvalo, this guy's Randy Tex Cobb, and his Jake LaMotta rolled into one, and you can't move this guy." And I'm like, well, what about the other 2 kids out of the last 6 who went 10 rounds as well? And it's just, for me, it just grates on me because the way he talks, the way I'm feeling, no one's going to go 2 rounds with me. And then this guy goes 10 rounds. He's like, these Mexicans, they got chins like you won't believe.
And I needed rounds.
Yeah, I need it rounds. It's like, do you really think you're that good? Conor Benn is going to get smashed to bits by an Ennis, a Virgil Ortiz. I'm not even going to say like Crawford, because that's ridiculous. There's kids in the UK. There's 2 or 3 kids in the UK who've got unbeaten records. Never mentions the name. Never mentions the name. And he's chasing Eubank because it's a massive money generator. Casuals will flock to this fight. And no matter what you think, Eubank's still a very fragile 160-pounder. Very fragile.
What do you think about his dad? I'm not sure what he's calling himself now. Did he say he were a state trooper on Tuesday, but on Wednesday he were a US Marshal, and yesterday he were a sheriff? So whatever he is, he's done some course in America or something. He's got some law enforcement something behind him. I don't know what it is. Or is he just waffling? What's going on there, Julian?
You never quite know.
Isn't
Yeah, you just don't know with senior, do you?
he? Is he a copper like that Gully who runs Boxing King Media? You know him on about, don't you? Gully, copper. Is he one of them, or is he pretending?
I don't know. I've not followed it enough. As you know, I've just saw something on Eubank. Actually, tonight, it was the first thing I watched tonight where he was going to expose the Hearns and he's got some dirt on them or something. And
that way, he's come out on IFL saying, "Don't be a Snyder." So I haven't got to that bit, and I'll have to watch that.
I don't know if I can watch it or not, but I'll tell you something. Whether anything comes out or not, it will have some dirt on them. Do you know why everybody was watching this?
He was around him long enough, wasn't he?
Because we're around them long enough because it's a dirty business. And what we've found is this: they'll do anything to make money. The fact that they were going to boil that kid down to 157, boil him down, emaciated, and put him in a ring last October, and still do that, knowing that there were 2 failed drugs tests, they'll do anything for money.
Did it to Chris Pyatt, didn't they?
So you can't tell me that Eubank hadn't seen this dirty stuff. And he referenced the 2 Waynes and the dodgy Waynes, and it all goes on, mate. It all goes
people
on.
Are saying there's going to come out with, this is what people are saying online. And I said, well, that's already out there. The Steve Collins carry on. He's got a bit of an issue with that, and there was something behind the scenes, and Collins and them ended up in court, didn't they? Collins won, didn't he, in High Court, didn't he? I think it was in Ireland.
I don't know the details, but I know Collins.
It's on Google, Steve Collins versus Barry Hearn court transcripts. Google, go read it all.
All right, okay.
And I think it's that one, but that's already in public domain. So, but if something's gone on in past 20, 30 years ago, why is he mentioning it now? If he's held it all them years, he's just as bad, isn't he? Or is it just green-eyed monster because the Earns, he basically put them on map with Steve Davis, didn't they, back in the day?
He's probably had his nose put out of joint, and
they've kept hold of their money earns. He's done his in because he's eccentric, and it could be a bit of that and a lot of other things rolled into it. I'm sure Barry Hearn could smooth it with him, put his arm around him, give him a few quid. I'm sure he'll be all right. They'll smooth it with him in the end. They've got to do, because once your junior's done, what's his good role going to be then? Oh, he's on to Harlem now, isn't
he? Yeah, I think I've only seen
that's in boxing. Oh my God, get him out the sport.
I think we're going to do part 2, Russell.
Yeah, how long's left on this one, like?
Yeah, about 30 seconds.
Well then, all right, go on to part 2.
2.
Thanks for liking and subscribing and leaving a comment. All right. Who knows, you might get to meet me one day and we might end up getting real close. Yeah. Pop, bang on that one. Peace out. I'll see you in part 2.